Welcome. My name is Kelly.
My name is Kate.
My name is Laura.
And
this is Fanimated.
An animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. And that was our attempt at trying to say the intro together over a Zoom call. So welcome to 2020, everybody. How are you guys?
Great.
Just fine.
Just she says.
It's
through a
2020.
Fine. It's 2020. We're all doing what we can. 2/3 of us work in education systems and are a little bit haphazard right now, and that's okay. Yes. Thank you guys so much for talking about Frozen 2 with me. That episode is now out, and it's amazing. Although we're recording this in the past, so they haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, we're really excited.
I am always a little nervous to hear what I said. Thank God for Kelly's phenomenal editing. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, well, I do what I can. But there is always fun bonus content on patreon.com/Fanimated where I add some of those random hiccups and misfit things that we say. So check it out. And now we're here, and it's What You Watchin', where I ask, what have you been watching recently? But before I do that, I want to go through a couple of things. I just want to give shout outs to people who sent emails / nice reviews, and I love it. So first, just want to give a huge shout out to Layla from Australia, who sent me the nicest email and loves How to Train Your Dragon as much as I do. And I just want to be shout out to all my How to Train Your Dragon fans out there. And I just love it. I just love hearing from you guys. I thank you so much for listening to the podcast and for loving animation as much as we do, because that's what this is all about. We can find common ground in other people who share our passions for animation, regardless of how far away we all are. And right before recording, I read the sweetest review, and I was pacing around my apartment. I was just so happy, and it just made my day and my week. So this is from GB_Moon, titled "One of My Favorite Podcasts." Thank you. And it says, so I just finished listening to the Tangled the series episode, and since you said you like reviews, I thought I would leave one myself. So let me just say that this is one of my favorite podcasts. Whenever it's too quiet and I need to hear people's voices, I always turn to your podcast, and it lets me know that there are other people that have the same interests I do. And just, oh my gosh, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And GB Moon, I love you, and you're doing great, and I thank you for loving animation. And that's literally why I made this podcast, is to be solidarity animation fans, and it doesn't matter what other people think, we can all love this wonderful, phenomenal medium. And then GB Moon continues, when it comes to recommendations, I highly think you should watch the shows Infinity Train and The Owl House. Which, by the way, yes, I do, because I watched the first season of Infinity Train, and now there are 2 other seasons that I've never seen. And I'm way behind on The Owl House. What is wrong with me? And they also said that we really need to do episodes on The Dragon Prince and Hilda. And yes, those are totally on the docket. I was just talking to Kate and Laura here about how I have the longest backlog of things that I want to talk about on the podcast, and I could do a full-length episode every other day and still not ever catch up with all the things I want to talk about. So thank you, because those are definitely on the list and coming, and thank you for the review, and I'm crying. It's so great. You guys can also leave reviews at Apple Podcasts or wherever, and they seriously make my day, so thank you. One last little tidbit of news is that I was on Banter I Hardly Know Her talking about animal crackers. So if you want to hear my thoughts about animal crackers, which is something that I've watched recently, go check that out. So who wants to start? Kate, Laura, what have you been watching recently?
Laura, do you want to start or should I?
Kate, you start.
Okay. So I've been watching a couple things. I finished a lot of things, which is really impressive for me because I kind of bounce around a lot to different things. And most of the time I don't finish things very, very fast anyways. So I just finished like another rewatch of Gravity Falls, which is always, in my opinion, a good idea.
Yes.
And then, but the kind of big thing that I finally just finished was Tangled, the series, and I loved it.
I need to
So
know
good.
all of the things that you thought.
Oh, so good. I loved it. I like don't even know where to start. I love when continuations of things that I love are done really well, and I was just so happy that it was just so well done. I don't know. Like I feel like there's been a lot of kind of like, especially, you know, when we were kids, there are a lot of like Aladdin the series or Little Mermaid the series. There's been like a lot of kind of spin-off series of, you know, popular Disney movies, and I feel like this is one of the first ones that I'm like, oh, this is like really well done and cohesive, and it doesn't just feel like a kind of, none of the episodes really feel like a throwaway half-hour kind of show that don't really have a cohesive plot. It's very, I feel like it furthers the story and the characters really well, and I love the new additional characters that they introduce, and the music is so good. I love the music.
What is one of your favorite songs from the series?
You and I talked about this, and I don't remember what the name of the song is, but it's the duet with Varian and
Cassandra.
Cassandra. I was like, Eden Espinosa, what's her name?
Nothing Left to Lose.
Yes. Oh, so that was my favorite one.
Eden Espinosa and Jeremy Jordan power duet. It's amazing.
So good. I loved it.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you finally finished it. And
yes.
Oh man, it truly, I agree with what you said. Like it's one of the best series. Again, we have a Fanimated episode on it. Man, I just love Tangled so much. I love the characters, and seeing them in any capacity, like just getting to see them again is amazing. But then the fact that they get a complete, like solid storyline, 3 seasons of Alan Menken music, and just it's so good. It's so good.
Right.
I will say, so I have not watched it at all, but Kate was watching, Kate and I live together, and she was watching the end of it on the big TV in our house. So I came in and sat with her, and I will say, I think the best thing that can be said for a series is that it's great to watch the whole thing, but really well-written serial stories are also things that you can just sit down and watch any episode and it's still entertaining. And I was able to watch the last 2 episodes with her, so the finale, I didn't know who any of the characters were. I hadn't watched any of it, and I really enjoyed both of those episodes. So that's a little like hats off to how well that series is made, that someone who hadn't watched any of it, like I thoroughly enjoyed and could very easily pick up what was happening without having watched any of it. So that's like hats off to them, because that shows that it wasn't only like a great continuation of the story, but a really well-written series as well.
Anything else, Kate?
I also, I followed through on my promise. If you haven't listened to our episode on The Last Airbender, the movie version, be forewarned, go listen to it.
Yeah.
But to preface that, if you haven't listened to it, I had not watched any of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and after watching the movie, it really piqued my interest, and so I finished the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's so good, and I'm a couple episodes into season 2, and I'm just so excited to keep watching. It's great. You are all correct in saying that it is a great show, and I don't know why I didn't watch it sooner, but here we are. Thanks, Netflix.
Yes, thank you, Netflix, for introducing the series to so many people. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for the journey you get to go on, Kate. You get to go on such a journey
I feel like I've been on a pretty great journey so far, so we're gonna expand upon that.
It just keeps going. It's just so good. Awesome. Well, I'm excited continue to follow up on your Avatar: The Last Airbender journey.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite episode so far in season 1?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite. I have like favorite moments and favorite
All right.
characters.
What's a favorite moment?
I like the one where there's like the big storm.
The storm?
Is that what it's called?
It's called the storm.
I like that one. That's the one where they have like that's the one where they give all the background about Aang, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like I also really
The one with the storm. What's it called?
What's it called?
The storm.
Too good. That was gold.
I also liked the episode where I don't remember what his name is. The character, they're like in the treetops and they're sort of like Robin Hood.
Jet.
Yes, I liked that episode. And then Katara is like kind of into him. Is that what the episode is called? Jet?
No, actually, it's called Jet. I'm pretty sure it's called Jet.
Okay, in my defense, I did not remember what his character name was, but
also, I just looked it up. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 1, Chapter 10, Jet.
again, in my defense, I did not remember what his name was. So if I'd been like, oh yeah,
great.
when they introduced Jet, what's that episode called? Then that would be,
It's
Jet.
still great. You're
Jet.
great.
No, but I love it so far. It's great.
Yay. Good. Glad to hear it. Laura, how about you? What have you been watching recently?
So I have been rewatching one of my favorite series of all time, which is Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yay!
Why am I talking about this on an animation podcast? One, because it's literally the only thing I've been watching. I am not someone who bounces around and has like a lot of things going at once. I commit to something and I professionally binge it till it's done. And when I jump on something like, it's got 7 seasons and they're all like 23 episodes a season, it's going to take a while. And I don't have lots of time for watching TV. So anyway, I have been watching the masterpiece that is Star Trek: The Next Generation. When I was thinking like, well, what am I going to talk about on this podcast? I've just been watching Next Gen. I sat and I thought, you know what? Star Trek actually has so much computer animation, so much CGI. And one of the cool things about watching Next Gen specifically, so Next Gen premiered in 1987 and the final episode came out in 1994, which is sort of the period where computer animation was really starting to come into its own and was developing really, really rapidly. And from the first season, the first few episodes, getting into, I think I'm in like season 6 now or season 7, I'm getting close to the end. The quality of the animation, just even of the opening credits it's space and the Enterprise flying through space. And when you watch like the first season, it's typical, like it's hokey Star Trek, bad bad, cheap animation, right? And you get to the end and it's like watching how the CGI and how the animation became more intertwined with the live action. Even just the animation of them beaming places, right? So beaming on and off the Enterprise. A lot of the animation that happens with the like weapons firing in space, the planets. I'm on an episode right now where I forget the technical term of it. It starts with a D, but it's this theoretical thing that it's a metal structure constructed in space that's so big it actually, like, the size of one is the size of Earth's orbit around the sun. And all of the planets within this, like this device harnesses the power of that star, and all of the planets that are inside then use that power. Like, no one has to use anything other than solar power because they literally have built a sphere around a planet. So, but it's like a computer animated thing that they're looking at, right? As this huge, and you would not know that was computer animated. And this is a TV show in the early 90s.
Yeah,
it's really high quality. And to watch the, like, oh, this is bad makeup, bad animation Star Trek when it started, but thank God the story is great. To like watching some of the CGI develop was really, really cool. And I think that, you know, that was kind of the reemergence of sort of the space saga on TV was Next Gen. And a lot of that animation and a lot of that, you know, animation in adult entertainment on television. Next Gen kind of relaunched that whole sci-fi on TV thing that was happening in the United States. And to just watch how far they came, I think it would be really fun. I haven't done a lot of research about it, but I think it would be cool to see, like, I feel like a lot of, you know, stuff that they developed for the show probably got used in a lot of different mediums. So,
wow, that's so cool.
Star Trek: The Next Generation. I mean, it's worth it just because it is a masterpiece of everything, of storytelling, of both good acting and bad acting. It's just a masterpiece.
I will also say that it is a very great show. I haven't sat through Laura watching the whole thing. I kind of like jump in and out, and I feel like almost every time I sit down and watch bits and pieces with her, or like a couple episodes here or there, I'm like, this show is cheesy as heck, but super poignant. And they're making like statements about things that we're still talking about today, that it's like, this is 1990 and we're talking about this. Like, this is a pretty kind of revolutionary show in a lot of ways. So yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. I've never seen a single episode of Star Trek, any of them. Laura's looking at me like I have committed a crime. Maybe we need to remedy that.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek is like, I mean, it's one of the things that defines my life. I am the nerd trifecta. Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who. All three of them, like, I live for it. They just so Kelly, we gotta watch the Next Gen. If you watch one of them, you gotta watch Next Gen. This is not a Trekkie podcast.
Starting a new podcast with Laura, featuring Laura, and we just go through every Star Trek episode. Star Trek Next Generation. That's great. That's great. And also, I wanted to say, Laura, I have a lot of respect for you to be able to sit through and focus on one show at a time. Truly. I can't do that.
Nope, I can't either.
I'm going to say, so I haven't, speaking of the starting things and maybe not watching them all at once, I am very excited. Kelly introduced me to a show called Vinland Saga, which is an anime, and I've started it, and I am planning on continuing watching it soon. I am excited because I think my husband is going to like it. We don't have a lot of things that we get to watch together, so it's something we're going to watch together. I'm really, really excited about that. Kelly, Kelly knows me very well, and she knows that I love like Norse culture, and I watch a lot of action TV shows about Vikings and Norse culture, and so she turned me on to this anime, which I think was it was a great recommendation because I don't consume a lot of anime, and because of that, it's also something that I struggle to, like, when I look through a what's new list, like, I'm not going to pull up the new anime that's on there. That's just because I haven't really watched a lot of anime. So I'm excited to continue watching that, not only just as a great story, and I'm excited to see the story, but as, another piece of anime that I can consume and potentially start introducing me to that world a little bit more.
Yes, I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on it and hear Garrett's thoughts, and maybe the three of us will have to do an episode on it once you get through it.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I've obviously, like I've mentioned, I watch a lot of things at once, but the main thing I want to make sure we talk about, and I want all of your opinions on it too, is I finally finished the Disney Plus documentary Into the Unknown, the making of Frozen 2.
So good.
So
And
I have to say, I am so excited that you did this, Kelly, because Kelly posted a poll on her Fanimated Instagram story, and it was what should I watch? I have Disney Plus. What should I watch? And Kate and I both wrote into the poll, you have to watch this. And then when you started, you were like, I got some recommendations to watch this. And we were both like, it was us. We're the ones who
It was
so, I'm super excited that you watched it. We like the whole time that because Kate and I watched it together, the whole time we were watching it, we were just like, Kelly needs to see this. Kelly needs to see this. Kelly.
And you were right. I loved it.
When Laura and I were watching it together, at this point, our Frozen 2 episode has come out. And I feel like a lot of our questions that we posed during this podcast were actually answered by watching the behind the scenes. Like, you kind of figure out the origin of who is a Ryder. Ryder is the kind of random character in the woods. They talk about his origin and how beautiful that is. And they talk about, you see all of the steps of Show Yourself and how bonkers it was to try to iron that out.
Right.
And it was just like, it was so funny because I feel like the whole, it's only 6 episodes. And I feel like the whole time Laura and I were like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense because we were curious about that. So yeah, I can't recommend it more. It's great.
Yes, they did. They answered a lot of questions that we had, except for they didn't quite explain to us why they're all wearing high-heeled boots in the woods, but most everything else. I am so grateful that you guys kept pushing that for me to watch that because it was so fun. And like, this is the kind of stuff I just live for. I was like, I wanted to see so much more even. It's like 5 episodes long. It's a lot of content, but I was still just like, give me more. I like want to see all of the behind the scenes stuff. And I really, really, really loved seeing I love seeing storyboards. Storyboards are like just my jam. And also like, the in-process animations, I'm just like, oh, it looks so, because I don't know, it's so fun. It's fun to hear from the animators specifically and like their process, and it's so cool.
And I feel like, getting to see that behind the scenes and seeing, interviews with Jennifer and Chris, the directors, and even like the, few animators that they interview, like, the story Frozen itself and the story that they were creating in the first one and the sequel, you can see how much it means to them as they're working on it. It's more than just a piece of family entertainment. It's a story that they've worked on for so long, and it's something that they're super passionate about. And I feel like, getting that inside glimpse into that just makes me love it even more. Like, I was a Frozen fan before, but now I love Frozen. And that really has to do with kind of that inside look into, the creation of it and how special it was to this group of people.
I think one of the things that I enjoyed the most was getting to Disney, right? Disney is this great big happy time corporation that makes these movies, and everyone that works there, I don't even think of like humans working at Disney, right? Disney's just this magical thing of like magical talking heads that produces movies, and we see them and we say what we think about them. And I think that it was really, really cool. All 3 of us are artists, right? We have various types of art that we like to consume and create. But all of us do create art, the 3 of us, right? And we all entertainment style art, I can say. We're all singers and actors and writers. And, I think that it was one of the things for me that was really cool was really getting to see how just human and normal the people who create this stuff is. It's so easy to criticize stuff when it comes out of a place like Disney, right? It's all these big rich people with all their statistics and all of their this and their, made this movie, and I didn't think that's what they should do. And then you get to watch them struggle through writing it and, just how human and normal all of the people that create these stories are. And it's so similar to any artist, to all of us. I think when we sit down and work on what in our heads feels very small and personal art sometimes, right? And that those feelings that we have are the same things that the people who are in their offices at Disney think about, you know, that's when they're trying to animate something or they're working on a song or working on the story, no matter how big or important their job is compared to how we feel when we create art. Like, all artists feel the same thing and the process is still the same, which was really, that was really cool for me, just especially with the success of Frozen. And it just becomes kind of a faceless group of people that I would put it in the bin of like, oh, there's all the rich people from Disney, you know, telling us what to like. Here we go. And they're all just normal people. And I loved getting to see them struggle to decide what to do, to have things not work, right? To have to change things after they showed it to a test audience. To get to see all of the people that have to collaborate to create those characters, which is so cool. Yeah, I loved that piece of it, that just you felt much more connected to the people, which connects you to the story even more.
Absolutely. It was so cool to hear from all these different people who do all these different things on the film, like from, you know, animating to rigging to lighting to, you know, the directors and the actors and everyone. And that just leads me into one of the reasons this documentary made me cry, and I cried several times, was just, I was just like overwhelmed with, and this is one of the reasons I love animation so much, is that it's a giant team effort. Like, I always love to just sit and watch the credits because every single one of those people, like you said, like, are normal people. And I love to see everyone's specific talent, everyone's specific role being fulfilled and coming together for this one purpose. Like, you think of those animators who worked on a few different scenes, like just a few seconds snippets, you know, of different segments, and all of those pieces coming together. You have, you know, the engineers, the software engineers who are writing all of this code and making crazy things happen. And you're having, you know, concept artists and storyboard artists like come up with these designs and these layouts, and there's so many things. And I love to think of animation and how they have this one product, and there are so many people involved that come together to make that. And I know you can say that about a lot of things, like any film, really. But it's just one of the things that I just love about animation. And it's really portrayed well in this documentary, and they highlight lots of people, and oh man, I just wanted more of it.
I also really, because this happens in any job that you're creating things, I thought that it was so interesting, the stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor, right? Where I feel like it's so different than when an actor records something, you know, it might be 1 or 2 days worth of work. It was a scene that we worked on. You know, the writer had to write that and they had to film it, and it didn't make it into the film. But when they would talk about like, oh, your scene got cut, and when it's animation, it's not, oh, we worked on this scene for 2 days, that's too bad, I liked it. It was like, that was 6 months worth of work that they just threw away. Like, and I have been there with projects. Like, I have worked on projects at work, you know, where you get assigned to something and they're like, great, we're not going to use this campaign. Like, we decided that we're just not going to do this. And you're like, but I just can't imagine putting that much, like, that was so, it was cool to see. And then also just the number of people that have to be involved in that work, you know, calling in the actors and having them record the voices and then watching the whole scene and then being like, oh, it doesn't work. When they were talking about like the whole first part of the film was all this exposition, and they just gave it all to Olaf instead. And we're like, well, we're just going to do this instead because this is too grown up of a film. Just really like cool to watch, and also, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just, yeah, wow.
But yeah, we talked a lot about that in the Frozen 2 episode about cutting things, about how, you know, you have to be able to cut things. And watching the documentary, it's like, it's even more personal about like how hard that must be
Mhm.
to actually cut stuff.
Well, and the thing that I thought was so funny, Kate and I were just yelling at the screen, watching them deal with Show Yourself not making any sense. And then, like, we talked about that so much of, like, I don't understand what happened. And you're hearing them talk about it, and Kate and I are like, it still doesn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. You never got there. You never actually got there. It doesn't make any sense. And they try, like,
Yes, exactly. It's like, no, it still didn't land. But again, like, they have to get the movie out on time. They don't, like, if they had another year, then it would make so much sense. It would be perfect.
It was just such a cool commentary on potentially like the flaw in the process that they use to make these films, that they have so many people doing so many pieces all at once. And it just became very clear, in my opinion, that they wrote that song and they didn't want to get rid of the song. And the story outgrew the song.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to shove it in. And it was so funny watching when they were like, oh, it's her mother. And I'm like, that's the worst choice you could. That's the most confusing choice of the. Now that I hear what you're talking about of what the choices were, I was like, that's the wrong one.
Right. Oh my goodness.
It's her. Like, that would have been so much more like philosophical and fit into the like, and then they made it was so confusing, and it was just funny to watch of like, oh, okay, it wasn't just me not getting it. Like, I don't think they even got it, but they're just like, well, here's the movie.
Exactly. And you're right. I would agree. I thought it would have been phenomenal if she gets to the glacier and it's herself that's been calling her there. Like, I think that makes sense to me. And
right.
I mean, granted, it's a beautiful duet between the two of them, but it would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still doesn't make sense, and we still love it. In conclusion, it's a great documentary, and if you have Disney Plus, you better watch it.
Also, one thing can I talk about something really quick?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even have to include this if you don't want. I just want to talk about it because it's sort of relating to animation, and I'm very excited. Tomorrow, if you have Disney Plus, I'm so excited. I'm so ready to watch it. There's a documentary about Howard Ashman that they're releasing tomorrow, and I cannot wait. I love Howard Ashman. Like, I could talk about him for hours. His work has influenced an entire generation of children through Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. His work is so personal to him, and I find his story to just be so like beautiful and heartbreaking, and I'm so excited. So if you have Disney Plus, tomorrow is August 7th. Go watch Howard. I know I'm gonna watch it and cry. That's it.
Oh my goodness, Kate, thank you. I didn't know that. I'm totally gonna watch it. And
please do, Kelly.
By the time this episode comes out, everyone will have access to it. So go watch that as well. Speaking of things that everyone who is listening to this will have access to and we don't yet, by the time this comes out, I will definitely be watching Wizards Tales of Arcadia. Cannot wait for the final installment of Guillermo del Toro's animated series. And The Legend of Korra is coming to Netflix. So much animated content to watch.
Kelly, have you heard the news about Mulan?
That it's not coming out until next year.
It's coming out on Disney Plus.
Wait, what?
September 4th.
September 4th. So we're gonna have to do a Mulan episode on your list because the live action one is coming out.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What? What?
So, yeah, gal, the three of us, not to put another thing on your list, but
I have a lot of things on my list.
But Mulan is coming out. And so the next time a Disney comes up on your list, it should be Mulan.
Okay. Great. Next Disney movie.
Definitely,
we'll talk about Mulan.
We can definitely talk about Mulan for a long time. And I
I
guarantee you, Laura will
adore
step
Mulan.
on that feminist soapbox many times during that
Mulan is
episode.
carrying my flag for me. She
Right?
was my girl. She
Yes.
was my girl.
To be
You know who
fair,
loves
she
Mulan
should
is
be
Vanessa.
everybody's girl because Mulan is awesome.
Also, I think that Shang is one of the hottest Disney men.
Amen.
For
Amen.
sure.
Garrett
that.
just audibly laughed in the kitchen.
Granted,
Yeah, you know I love me some Shang.
You also love yourself some Donny Osmond. Not that he's
I was about
saying.
to
Danny
say.
Osmond only sang it. BD
Only
wanted
sang.
a voice.
I know.
but
I'm
still,
just saying you love Donny Osmond.
the
I
singing
do.
voice of Donny
You
Osmond.
don't like Donny Osmond, you can leave. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, who
So many
doesn't like
things.
Donny Osmond?
Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Whatcha Watching episode. Again, you can listen to our Frozen 2 episode from last week. And next time I have these gals on, we'll be talking about Mulan, I guess.
Yes,
Yes.
we will.
So, do you guys want to help sign off?
We can try.
Maybe it'll be better than the intro. So remember, you can become a supporter of Fanimated over at patreon.com/Fanimated. There, for only $1 a month, you can vote for upcoming episode topics and hear behind-the-scenes bonus content from our episodes. Also, big announcement, you can find us at Convergence Minneapolis. We'll be doing a live stream through their online virtual experience, and we'll be talking about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power August 23rd at 12 p.m. Central. So definitely get ready for that. I'm so excited. Bryn will be joining me for that live stream. And I'm so excited to be part of Convergence this year, even though we can't be there in person. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast to stay up to date with all things animated, and don't forget to leave a rating and review telling us what you'd like us to watch next. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music, and the art is done by myself. You can find me on Instagram at CandorDraw. Thank you to Kate and Laura again for joining me. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.
And stay tuned.
And stay animated.
No,
like half of the content is about Star Trek. You can just be like, just like voiceover of like, Laura's going to talk about Star Trek for 20 minutes, so we're just going to edit that on the next week.
We're just gonna move on to something else.
I'll just make my second podcast, Laura and Star Trek.